What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more live content for you guys. And obviously, as we all know, the transfer window is done and dusted, and it is that time to give our squad review. We're going to be comparing the squad from last year to this year, see how much stronger we are, and then we're going to be going through the different sort of variations that we think that Thomas Frank could be deploying as Tottenham manager. I know a lot of you are asking, where is this Champions League squad? Yes, we're asking the same thing because, you know, the deadline was supposed to be 11 p.m. last night and there's been no word of it. And I'm looking at the other Premier League teams who are also in the Champions League, and it seems as though at this moment in time, Man City are the only team that have publicly released the Champions League squad. So we're sitting here waiting just like you guys.
Yeah, and let's hope we get it as soon as possible. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be some big secret. I'm sure they'll release it at some point. It's just a bit frustrating. We're waiting to see the choices Frank has made because it's very interesting to see who he's going to leave out. So it's a bit annoying that at this current moment in time, for some reason, haven't been released. But look, a bit of patience. I'm sure it will come out soon at some point.
Yeah. So let's start off looking at the squad review. So this is where we were at last season in terms of goalkeepers. We had Antonin Kinski, we had Vicario, we had Fraser Forster, and we had Brandon Austin. Fast forward to this season, yeah, I mean, Brandon Austin is there, but he's not on the graphic. But Brandon Austin, Antonin Kinski, and Vicario. So, I mean, pretty much as we were, to be honest. I think Antonin Kinski, with a further year of development behind him, Fraser Forster, Vicario obviously was out for a significant part of last season. So I'm hoping obviously that doesn't happen this year. But yeah, goalkeepers, not too much to comment on, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think there's been much change. Obviously, we were talking about potentially leaving Kinski out of the Champions League squad, but he was left out of the Europa League squad anyway. And it's great for Austin that he's now an option potentially. He came in last season. I guess everyone was wondering, is he ever going to play for Tottenham? He came in. It surprised a lot of people last season. So if Kinski is left out, at least we have someone who at least has had a few games now.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not too much to comment on the goalkeepers, and I think we can say we're happy with the goalkeepers moving forward. And I think the deputy is very good, and the deputy of the deputy, I think he showed last year he can come in and do a job. So I'm happy with all three choices. Into the centre back. So this was our centre back roster last season with Ben Davies, Kevin Danso, Couto Romero, Mickey van der Ven, and Radu Dragusin. Obviously, Radu did his ACL last season. Mickey had his injury problems last year. Romero had his issues last year. So it kind of was
Gray and Dragusin for a lot of it, and Gray and Davis even.
Exactly. So, I mean, Danso came in January. So, I mean, it was just a mess last year.
And Danso came in and then Dragusin did his ACL.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, we really, as Ange was saying last season, whenever he thought that there was light at the end of the tunnel, it turned out to be an oncoming train.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly how it was with our centre-backs last year.
Yeah, so, I mean, not much change for the centre-backs to this year. We've got Danso, Van der Ven, Romero, Kota Takai, the new addition, and Ben Davies. So
Dragusin's obviously
Dragusin there as well. Dragusin there
he's done his ACL.
So
I mean, the big difference is they're fit.
Yeah,
that's the big difference at the moment. Yeah, they're fit, and hopefully, the way we play might help them. You know, we've already seen so far in the first few games, Van der Ven's not going to be making those big lung bursting runs as often. He has had to do it a few times, but you know, under Ange was doing it 3 or 4 times a game. Hopefully he's not having to do it that many. I look at the centre backs. I think if we have the same problems as last season, then we're in trouble. But the thing is, I mean, can you plan a squad that your first 2 centre backs are going to be out for that long? I mean, it's difficult to do that. You know,
it is difficult to do that, but it has been 2 years in a row that we've had our first 2 choice centre backs out for a significant amount of time.
I mean, the first year, Romero only missed. He got sent off. I don't think he had a serious injury in his first year, but the second year, obviously, he did. Yeah, it's true. Van der Ven has had 2 serious injuries. So that's obviously a big problem. We've got Danso there. You've got, I mean, we don't know about Takai. We have to wait and see.
I think, look, in an ideal world, we would want one more centre-back that could cover at full-back as well, in an ideal world. Now, I think that with the issues that we had, that we talked about yesterday in the Champions League squad, one injury into the back line and we're looking a bit light there.
And I think, obviously, I don't like bringing them up, but if you look at Arsenal, they have Gabriel and Saliba, right? They're their first choice. But what they've done brilliantly is they've got Hincapié, Calafiori, Ben White, and Timber can all play centre back and they play full back.
Yeah.
You look at City. I mean, I know he's gone, but for years they had a Kanji, they had Aki, players who can play just as well. That's the kind of profile we're missing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, look, I think we would have preferred it if we had one more just to bolster up those numbers. And it is a bit of PTSD as well, just because what we've been through over the past couple of years. There is a situation saying, you know, if it gets really bad, Archie Gray can kind of play that role, but you don't really want him to play that role.
I think with centre backs as well. Now we don't have Ange, who asked a lot of his centre backs physically. I'm not saying they're not going to be working hard, but hopefully, you look at Van Dijk, he just plays every game, doesn't he? You look at Gabriel Saliba, I know they had their injuries in the moment, but they when they're fit, they play, Champions League, Premier League, it's not they rotate. That's the stage we've got to be in. So I don't see Romero and Van de Ven as like, we're rotating them. But obviously, when you've come off the back of the injuries they've had last season, it's hard to envisage them playing 40, 50 games because we've just never seen it. But I think that's got to be the idea, isn't it?
Yeah, look, in an ideal world, but we all know with Mickey and his hamstrings, every time he kind of goes on a marauding run, or every time he kind of just feels that leg of his,
you hold your breath.
Building the worst.
You hold your breath.
The worst. So, yeah, look, I'm happy with the quality that we've got in defence, but like I said, I think one more, and I think we would have been very much more comfortable going into this season. That's the reality. So that's the centre-back situation. If you look at left-backs, last year we had Destiny, we had Spence, we had Reguilon, and we had Ben Davis. I don't think Ben Davis actually covered too much at left-back last year. He was predominantly more of a centre-back under Ange.
Well, a lot of it was injury-related.
Yeah.
Because we just had no centre-back, so he had to play there.
Yeah.
But he played... he did play a few Europa League games there, I remember.
Yeah. Reguilon obviously was very much underused, barely used him, just in 1 or 2 games, which I thought with the injury problems that we were going through, he should have had more of a role last year. Mad to think Reguilon still can't find a club. So that's where, other clubs think of him. This year, basically just take out Reguilon and you're left with the same, with Jed Spence, Destiny Udogie and Ben Davis.
Yeah, and if need be, Van de Ven could fill in there. We've seen it before, so he's a potential option, but you don't want him there. You want him at centre back, don't you? So especially you've got Danto coming in. So yeah, look, it's one option down, but
one option which we didn't use. So
yeah, one option we didn't use. It's pretty much as you were. Again, I would prefer. I guess you could say Ben Davis is that profile we're talking about, a centre back who can play left back. But for me, when you're talking about Calafiori and Hincapié and Akanji and Ake and then Ben Davis, I think there's just a big difference.
Yeah, and
that's the reality. So, look, I think we're light. We have options. Gray can also step in at fullback as well. But I think the problem is if Udogie gets a long-term injury, like he has, again, another player who has done, you don't think you've got great options there. But obviously Spencer's done well. And the problem with Spence is he's covering both right back and left back.
Yeah, so we've got 3 fullbacks at the required level. After that, the quality massively drops. That's the reality. So one injury to any of those fullbacks and we're in trouble, in my opinion. And so let's look at the right backs, then we can kind of review all the fullbacks as a whole. So last year, we deployed Archie Gray there, Pedro Porro, Jed Spence. And then this year, I mean, Archie could play there, but we haven't seen it. But it's Pedro Porro and Jed Spence.
Well, we haven't needed to see it.
Yeah.
So, again, Porro's one of those players that you're not worried about getting injured. But then again, he's been so injury-free. Is he bound to get an injury at some point? I guess that's the worry. And then obviously Spence covers. And yeah, look, you got Gray that can cover there as well. So I think again, it's good options. Look, I think it's fine. I mean, it's fine. In theory, the only problem is Spence is first choice backup for both roles.
Yeah, which is not really fine. It's not really fine. Like when you're trying to compete on all fronts, when you're trying to compete in 4 different competitions, League Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League, you do need that extra option there. You need 2 options on the left, 2 options on the right, where the quality doesn't really drop. And we don't have that.
Yeah, we have 1 for each. And yeah, I mean, you don't look at the end of the day, you don't really want Ben Davies starting left back in a Champions League game, do you? That's basically the issue. You can rotate. It's fine, probably rotating one of Udogie and Porro for Champions League or Premier League. Kind of like what we attempted last year, but we kind of fell flat on our face because we just got so many injuries.
Yeah.
I think in theory it could work because you rotate one in the Champions League, rotate one in the Premier League, and you can kind of get away with it, but it relies on them all staying fit. Once one goes down, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I think you are kind of asking a lot of them, to be honest. You're asking a hell of a lot. We asked a lot of Porro last year, and I don't think it's sustainable for him to just keep playing that many games season after season after season, as well as, this year he's going to be going to the World Cup with Spain, potentially starting for them. So, I mean, this guy is going to have to play a hell of a lot of football. So I don't think it's sustainable. And I do think come the January transfer window, we have to dip into the market to try and help out those players.
I mean, if he's determined not to play Davis in these games, which I think I wouldn't be surprised. Again, if they all stay fit, I think it's a manageable situation. But as I said, I think if one goes down, all of a sudden, one of them has to play every game, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah. And, the likelihood of all three of them staying all fit all season is... I wouldn't say it's very likely. We've seen Udogie consistently get injured since he's come, really.
But obviously, Gray can play there as well, right back.
Yeah, look, we've got options, but we're talking about having options where the quality doesn't massively drop. And if you play Davis and Archie there, the quality massively drops.
Obviously, you play them together, but if you've got one of Udogie and Porro there, and then you're playing
still
Archie,
massively drops on one side.
It drops, but you got to. He can fill in. Depends on how bad the injury is, but.
Yeah.
I think, look, Gray to be fair, Gray's played fullback majority of his career now at this point. So I think he can fill in there, which isn't a terrible option. But yeah, I think we're short. We are short.
Look, we can say that Gray has played there the majority of his career, but he's not a Premier League, Champions League level fullback. That's the problem. So definitely light in those areas. Moving on to the central midfield. This is where we're at last season with Bentancur, Bergvall, Bissouma, Sarr and Gray. And this year, I think it's, definitely an improvement with the addition of João Palhinha, but pretty much as we were, just adding João Palhinha in there. You've got Bergvall with an extra year of development behind him. You've got Archie Gray with an extra year of development behind him. Bissouma won't be an option. He'll probably go at some point. I hope so. Anyway, I think like maybe a Turkish team or a Saudi team are going to come in for him. Still some time left to do that deal. But yeah, in terms of our central midfield, I'm happy with the options.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think you're still. Is there? Look, I think the big question is there enough of like playmaking, passing ability in that midfield? That's kind of where a lot of concerns are. And I understand that, but I look at those options, and I think we do have a lot of good options, young options, experience, a good mix, a good blend. I think you've got Frank should be very happy. I mean, look, he's been used to work with Norgard, Jensen, Janel. Like, I'm not saying these are bad players, but I mean, look at the options he has now, and he should be like delighted with what he's got at his disposal, what he can work with. Yeah. And I think essentially you're just upgrading Bissouma to Palhinha, who I think he's just a lot more consistent. He's not gonna. Well, I mean, I guess he did have a bad game against Bournemouth, but he's going to be there most games when he plays, when called upon, just being consistent dual winner. He's going to do his job. Whereas Bissouma just had that tendency to switch off in a lot of games and leave you wanting more. So I think there's a lot of good options there. You got to be hopeful Bergvall can get back to that consistent level he's showing last season. Sarr seems to be improving as well. Gray, he's the one we just need a bit more from. Apart from that, I'm pretty happy with those options. Yeah,
and I do think that Gray can have a really good, strong season under Thomas Frank. We know that Thomas Frank likes him. We know that Thomas Frank tried to sign him for Brentford. I think we hijacked them when we did sign Archie. So I think Archie will have a good season this year under Thomas Frank, and the other players will come on. We've already seen Pape Matar start the season on fire. When you're talking about that player that can like progress the ball up the pitch, out of those players, I think like Bergvall's probably the best one in it. He's probably the one that we're going to look at and be like, look, this is going to be you.
Yeah, and I think Bentancur potentially can do it, but I think, Bergvall's the one with the most quality. He's got the most kind of technical ability in that middle, ability to go on the half turn, bravest guy on the ball, you know? Whereas Paulinho, Sarr, Bentancur, feel like most of the time they just play it safe too often. I feel like there was a time when Bentancur wasn't doing that just for his ACL, and we need him to get back to those kind of levels on the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. So midfield, I think, well stocked, a lot of numbers, so that's definitely a positive. In the attacking midfield, last year, it was pretty much just Maddison and Decky. This year, we've got more players, but obviously Maddison's out for the season pretty much with the ACL. Decky is going to be back after the new year, and we need to get him back to those levels and match fit. So that's going to take some time. But we do have Xavi Simons, obviously, which is our star signing this summer. Mohamed Kudus, who's going to be deployed mostly on the right, but he can play there if need be. It's just such a massive shame that we have these injuries, because if we didn't have the injuries, look at those options, man.
I know. I mean, who else in the Premier League would have a attacking midfield roster like that? But a very few, if any, teams can compete with that kind of level of depth in the attacking midfield. So it's such a shame Maddison's done his ACL and Decky's got a long-term injury, because at the end of the day, the plan was to bring in Gibbs White anyway. So we would have had this even if Maddison didn't get injured. The plan was always bring in another number 10. So it's gutting, and let's just hope Maddison come back as quicker than. Look, this season's probably right off for him. Hopefully, Decky, second half of the season, he can start playing again and we can get him involved. But I'm very happy with Simons. I think he's a phenomenal signing. I think we've done brilliantly to get him in. Massive credit to the recruitment team for that. Listening to Johan Lang, just listening to him, he implied he was a player we wanted earlier in the window and wasn't available, and only came available later on. So seems as though he was on our list from the start, which is good to know. And obviously Kudus, we know, can play there. He's our first choice right winger, so how much time we'll see him there, but he's also an option if need be.
Yeah. So look, I'm happy, but I do feel like there are key members within that starting 11 for us that if they go down, then we start to be in a bit of trouble. Because I think like if Xavi Simons gets injured, for example, then obviously you need to probably shift Mohamed Kudus into the centre, then who goes on the right, and does the quality really decrease if we do that in the forward line? I think it does. You look at João Palhinha, if he gets injured in the number 6, do we have anyone with that kind of steel in the middle of the park? Probably not. And the defence as well, I think is a bit of a precarious situation. So look, I do think a lot of teams have that with, if one player go down, but I feel like we've got a few of them.
Look, we signed a player. The players we've signed because we needed them, and so if they get injured, then it's a problem, of course. But it's just there's only so much you can do, I guess, in that situation.
Let's move on to the left wing. Last season with Sonny, Matisse Tell, Mikey Moore, Wilson Odobert, and Timo Werner. And Sonny was obviously an aging Sonny. He was still by far the best left winger at the club. These other guys didn't really contribute last season, to be honest. I think Mikey Moore showed flashes, particularly in the Europa League. Odobert and Tell didn't really contribute, with Odobert being injured out for the majority, and Timo just got banished from the team after a string of poor performances against like Tamworth and against Rangers, and we never saw him since. So it was pretty much Sonny and Tell kind of mixing in a bit towards the latter stage of the season. That's pretty much what our left wing options were. You move on to this season. Brennan's been deployed on the left so far, first 3 games with 2 goals. You've got Wilson Odobert and Matisse Tell, who you expect to have a bigger impact this season than what they had last season. And then you've got Xavi Simons as well, who can play out on the left wing. I
actually also wouldn't be surprised if we see Moani there a few times as well, because I know he's more of a striker, but I actually think the way he plays, he could and the way Johnson plays, quite similar when they play on the wing. And I think Moani could do it to a better extent. Like he could be more involved in the play, and he can be like a left wing forward. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Moani there quite a bit potentially. But yeah, I look at our options on the left, and it just depends on Odobert and Tell, doesn't it? I mean, we know Johnson's one of those players where, look, if he's not scoring, he's not really providing that much. We know that. He's just very good at getting into the box and scoring and finding the right moment. But is he a player that's upgradable 100%? Is he a player that you want to rely on to be your starting left winger? Probably not. You've got Tell and Odobert. Again, high potential. if I told you there are starting left wingers at the moment, again, is that good enough? Probably not. So we got 3 wingers who, all in their own right, are good and have their, in their own right, you don't mind having them all as part of the squad, but you also don't want any of them being our first choice. So we're kind of a difficult situation there. You probably want someone who's star quality there.
Yeah, and that's why I was really disappointed that we didn't bring in a left winger in the summer transfer window. Look, they're going to have the first half of the season now till January, and we'll see how they get on. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's another position that we try and target in January if these guys haven't kicked on. And look, I know we've had a lot of conversations about Odegaard and Tell, and I do think that, at some point in the future that they could be really good players. But I think from a squad planning perspective and stuff, like signing Tell was probably a poor decision. And we probably should have just left it at that and gone for a tried and tested left winger that can come in and start for us week in, week out.
Yeah, I think you don't need both Tell and Odegaard. You just need one of them.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So that's the truth. But it could pay off. Maybe they'll both come good. I think right now, if you offered me would I swap Tell for Lookman? Yeah, I probably would right now because we have Odegaard, who's also a high potential player there. The same with Odegaard. Would I swap Odegaard for Lookman? Probably, and keep Tell. It's just we don't need both of them. It doesn't really make too much sense, I would say, because they're both developing. They both kind of need the game time to, improve themselves and get confidence and just get into a rhythm and develop. And having 2 players like that in the same position, I would argue, is I don't know how smart that is.
Yeah.
So we're potentially leaving ourselves open, but on the flip side, if they both start doing it, you have 2 wingers for a very young age who are providing and could both be very good options for us. So we'll just have to see how they get on.
Yeah, but big eyes on them. It's a massive season for both of them this season, massive. But when you're looking at the left wing,
I also feel like they just get judged so early. Like, I know it's harsh, and I know. Look, we're Spurs fans. We pay high prices and we rightly have expectations for us to be challenging. But I feel like, Bergvall after 6 months, which the same amount Tell, wasn't really cutting it. Odegaard has basically had most of last season out with injury. And they're still 20 years old. They're so young. You just give them a bit more time, I think.
I don't disagree. But when you're looking at Bergvall, he was thrown into the deep end and asked to play week in, week out, pretty much. Because of injuries that we got in the centre of the park. Odegaard and Tell are fighting for a position with Brennan Johnson. So there are 3 options there. Are they going to get afforded the same kind of chance that Bergvall got to really make his name week in, week out playing? I don't know if they are.
Yeah, it's a question. I mean, there's a lot of games, so I think they'll get their chances. But it's about getting consistent minutes.
That's it. I don't know if they're going to get that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if both will. Yeah, but maybe one of them, but I don't know if both.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all about getting those minutes and grabbing your chance because I know they're young. They're both 20 years of age, but they're here in the squad to make an impact. Mm-hmm. They have to make an impact. They're literally so important to the team. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're at the moment. So if they're that important to the team, they got to deliver.
I understand that, but I think they can.
I hope so. But when you're looking at the weakest part of the squad, if you're going to assume Javi Simons is going to play in the middle, Kudus is going to play on the right, the left wing is a quality drop.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to the right wing, last year was Decky, Brennan, Mikey Moore and Wilson Odegaard. Obviously, we spoke about Odegaard being injured for the majority. Brennan Johnson, 18 goals last season in all comps. Decky, he was predominantly played in the middle, but did have games out wide as well. And Mikey Moore, obviously 17-year-old playing majority in the Europa League at right wing sometimes. And I always felt he looked a lot better on the left than he did on the right. You look at this season now, I think Mohamed Kudus is a major addition in that spot. You got Decky, who's going to come back at some point. You got Brennan Johnson, who actually hasn't played there yet. And you got Wilson Odegaard, who I think probably will be predominantly on the left, but he's definitely he'll be an option.
He played there in pre-season, didn't he, Johnson?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
he played on the right a few games, but yeah, he has predominantly played on the left. He has only played on the left.
It's going to be interesting to see what we do with Decky when he comes back. Mm-hmm. Is he going to be more of a central player? Is he going to be more on the right? I think he can do a great job under Frank in both the areas, to be honest. And when he does come back and get back to match fitness, he's going to change the game for us in terms of options that we have on the right and in the middle, and we might see some more players playing different positions, and it will just increase the quality that we have. But in terms of the right wing spot, just Kudus is a game changer.
Yeah, and he gives us something we never had, which is, first of all, almost like a target man on the wing, someone who can hold the ball up exceptionally well, someone who gets involved in loads of duels, unbelievable dribbling ability, probably the best in the squad and one of the best in the league. So he provides something extraordinary, and I think we've already seen what he can provide in the Tottenham shirt. Obviously, you want maybe more of a goal threat, which we haven't seen as of yet. But if he can add that you're talking about potentially world-class player. The only thing I would say, it's not his fault, but in the first 3 games, it's already worrying kind of how reliant we are on him. That's what I would say. It's like, it kind of feels like we build up and we're struggling, and it's like, okay, just give it to Kudus and he'll just wriggle out of a situation.
I kind of feel like that could change now with Javid Simons.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now.
I agree with that. It's just something to observe. I think Bournemouth exploited it. They just basically prevented us building up from that side and say, okay, you can get you. Don't worry, give it to Spence and Johnson. They can have it, but just don't let Kudus and Porro have it. And that was kind of a big problem.
That's another thing as well. Like I agree with what you're saying, but even with Javi Simons there, you've seen Arsenal, right, where they do little next to nothing on the left, and it's all goes through Saka on the right hand side. So if you kind of block that right side of the pitch for them, they're pretty blunt. And it could be the same for us, like on the left wing. And if, let's say, Tell and Odebear are at the stage that they're at now, and you put Brennan Johnson out on the left-hand side, build-up is going to be literally zilch on that left-hand side. So you're all they need to focus is on our right-hand side, and we're going to be blunt.
Well, I think he improved when Odebear came on. He was actually able to get the ball.
Yeah, agreed. But I'm saying if we start with Brennan Johnson.
Yeah. And look, that's the role Brennan plays, isn't it? It's about him finishing off. And yeah, we need Bergvall, Simons that can really solve it. But I think it's an observation. I think in the first 3 games we are heavily reliant on Kudus, basically just pulling a rabbit out of the hat whenever he gets the ball, and that's not sustainable.
Yeah, look, now we have Javi Simons. Now I do think we can attack him through the middle, through the right. I just think we need more quality on the left, but. I'm happy with our right wing options, and when Decky comes back, it's going to improve it tenfold, in my opinion. Imagine having like Kudus on the right, and then bringing on Decky. Like they're both like dual monsters, aren't they? So
yeah, I think we'd have if Decky's considered a right winger, we have fantastic options there.
And then we move on to the striking position, the attacker, and it's Richarlison, Solanke, Tell, and Sonny last year. Obviously, Sonny. Was predominantly a striker 2 years ago, where he got 17 goals. Last year, he was predominantly on the left wing. Richarlison had his injury problems last year. Solanke also had his injury problems, but he was the one that was our main number 9, and Tell played 1 or 2 games there, I think, when he first came. Moving on now to this season, basically we removed Sonny and put Kolo Muani, who is a proper number 9. You've got Matisse Tell there as well as the 4th option. Richarlison started the season on fire. Dom Solanke, I don't know what's going on with him. There's been no update regarding his injury. But
conflicting reports.
Yeah. So when you're looking at number 9 options, I'm thinking this is our best number 9 roster for quite some time.
Yeah, and I think there's goals there. I think there's quality there. It's just I think on the face of it, you've got 3 very good number 9s, and obviously Tell. He's Tell at the moment. He's still young, and when he's played in that position, he just physically doesn't seem to be up to it just of yet. Although I think he is a good finisher in front of goal. He hasn't quite done it for us. But I think in theory, you have 3 very good number 9s. All of them, I would argue, are capable of getting at least 10 to 15 Premier League goals if they're all our starting number 9. So and they offer something a bit different as well. Richarlison's a brilliant penalty box striker. Solanke's a fantastic presser and great hold up, and different in physicality. Muani's great at running in behind, and great at running at defenders and things like that. So, in theory, you've got all bases covered. On the flip side, there are rumours that Solanke's out for 3 months. Richarlison's obviously got historically horrendous injury problems, and can you rely on him to stay fit for a whole season? And then Muani is a bit of an unknown player in the Premier League. We'll have to see how he adapts. But, he's off the back of a difficult spell at PSG, albeit he's done fairly well at Juve and they wanted him back. So there's two ways of looking at it. I'm pretty positive about them. I think they could all get goals, and I think Frank will be looking at his striker options, considering what he did with Tony, Morpie, Mbuemo, Wissa, Watkins, Sade, what he's done with these players. I think he'll be looking at Moani, Richarlison, Solanke, if they're all fit, thinking I can get them all scoring. But there's also a negative side to look at it. But I'm not looking at it. I think I'm looking at the options and thinking we're in a really good position there up front.
What's the negative side? I know you like to always look at two sides.
I sort of told you.
Oh, okay.
Richarlison's got injury problems. Solanke's potentially out for 3 months, and Moani is off. Off the back of a difficult couple of years.
Yeah, look, I'm happy. I am happy with the number 9 options. I'm happy with the right wing options, assuming Decky's going to get back to full fitness by the turn of the year. And it's just the left wing where I'm a bit worried about, and a bit concerned. But it's, the coach has got a coach now. It's up to Frank to get the best out of Odebear and Tell. We're always told, like you mentioned about him getting the best out of all the wingers and the strikers at Brentford. Now he's got to do it at Tottenham, and he's got to earn his money and get them firing on all cylinders. So if he can do that, and if Odebear and Tell can really provide a proper option for us this season, where they can impact games, get consistent goal contributions, then no one's going to worry about the left wing. But it's about getting them there.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it's just probably one of them we really need to properly step up, at least one of them. And then all of a sudden we're in a good position. And you've got Moani you could fill in there. You've got Simmons you can fill in there. So I think we do have options around the forward line. I think we've done very, very well. That's the big success of this window. It's just upgrading that forward line massively. Last season, how many times we had Brennan on the right, Son on the left, and, every time we'd get the ball out wide, they just couldn't hang on to the ball, and they were just giving the ball away, and it was so hard to watch. You had, even at times, we had no Solanke or Richarlison. Basically, whenever the ball went forward, we just couldn't hang on to it, and it was really hard to watch at times. This season, you add Siemens in there, you had Kudus in there, you had Moani in there. I think we're going to be a different prospect. I think we're going to be a lot of different prospect going forward. And hopefully, look, the big question was, losing Sonny, Decky, Madison, that's a lot of goal contributions. Have we replaced those? Yeah. That's the big question mark. I think we've gone a long way to doing it. I don't know if they're going to hit, whatever it was, 67 goal contributions. But hopefully, with a more robust defence, I think we've got enough firepower to make the difference. Yeah,
look, I'm happy in the direction that the squad is going. I don't think we're there just yet. I think that when you're looking at other Premier League clubs, I'd probably say we've got the 5th strongest squad in the Premier League, I would say. And I think that's fine for where we're at right now. Thomas Frank's first full season, his first transfer window. Last season, we had so many gaps. We still have gaps, but it's nowhere near as many as we had last season. So we're going in the right direction. We've shifted kind of the way we do our transfers now, not just going for young players with potential. We've brought in ready-made players that are ready to hit the ground running, like João Palhinha, like Mohamed Kudus. Javi Simons is young, but he's got plenty of experience as well. We've brought in players with experience, and these are the kind of caliber and profile of players that we need to be going for. And I'm happy that we've kind of shifted from young and upcoming to Premier League proven experience. And that's what we've needed to do. So I think we're going in the right direction. We still need more, for sure. But I think we can still have a good season. I think we will have a good season.
Yeah, and I think it's really exciting. It's a very exciting squad. Simmons, Kudus, Moani are all extremely exciting additions. I think they all add so much to the forward line, and I think all of them could all be big successes. Especially Simmons, he's got, man, I still can't believe we're talking about him as part of the Tottenham squad. I really can't, because he's such a dream signing, and I can't believe we've been able to get him through the door and convince him to come, because it's phenomenal, and he's going to, honestly, I've got such high hopes for him. We've got guys who I think could really do it now, like those three. You've got Tell and Odebear, potentially, who've got high potential. Same with midfield. You've got Gray and Bergvall, who've got high potential. You've got guys who can do it now, Bentacle, Palhinha, Sarr. Like, you've got confidence in that. So I think there's a really nice blend now of experience and potential and youth. Romero signed. He signed a new contract. We didn't mention that. Unbelievable for the squad. Partnered with Van der Ven, who's now had a couple of years. Hopefully, he can get over those hamstring issues if he can. then we're laughing with those two at the back. I think they're unbelievable duo. So I think, yeah, the big questions are fullback. If we get a long-term injury to one of those three, what do we do then? Are we a bit in trouble? If we get a long-term injury to one of Van der Ven or Romero, or both, like we have done last season, then we're in a bit of trouble. And also, Simon's right now, while Decky and Maddison are injured, if he picks up an injury. Although I was looking, his injury record is actually pretty good. He had quite a big one last year, but that's the only big one he's ever had. Similar to Moani. He's only had one injury in his career, and that was an ankle injury.
Unfortunately, injury records mean nothing before you come to Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, it's also true. But hopefully that bodes well to the fact that hopefully he won't pick up a big injury. Moani as well. I wonder if we've looked at injury records before making these signings, because we've seemed to be making players.
Everyone made such a big thing about Dom Solanke's injury record before he came. So, it's something to note, but we'll see how the season progresses. Because an injury can pop up for anyone at any point, regardless of your injury record.
Yeah, the problem with how we're analysing all this stuff, and we come into this with a very negative mindset because of how bad last season was with injuries. Like, obviously, we'd never seen anything like last season. Every week last season, or every day, it seemed like someone else was picking up a long-term injury or big injury, or this one's going to be out for this amount of time, and blah, blah, blah. And the even worse was the fact that we kept hearing, oh, it's nothing serious, there's a knock, and then the next day we're here, oh, it's actually 3 months. So we're just so kind of focused on that. Whenever we review the squad now, it's like, well, if he gets a long-term injury and he gets a long-term injury and he gets a long-term injury, we're in this position, that position. Or if they don't, then we're okay.
If they don't, we're okay. But I think, look at Arsenal, for example. Again, I don't like to compare to Arsenal, but they've built a squad now where they get injuries in their first 11. They're fine. They're okay. I know the quality drops from Saka to Madueke, but still, majority of places in the pitch, if they get a long-term injury, they're completely fine. And that they've planned for that because of the injuries that they got last season.
Yeah.
We got major injuries last season, and albeit it's better and we have less holes, but still there are players in the squad that if they get injured, we are a bit screwed.
But they have built that squad over
100%.
6 years.
100%. That's why I'm kind of happy of where we're at this moment in time. Like I said, first transfer window under Thomas Frank, we're in a good place right now. And we're kind of building really well. But we do need to add those profiles and those key figures in transfer windows to come.
And you're looking at players in the squad right now who you think could potentially be surplus to requirements in a year, and they're very few. There aren't too many.
Yeah, it just depends on the development of the young players, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's true. But you're thinking of Deadwood, and I don't see much Deadwood at the moment.
Yeah, everyone's going to have to play their part. So I would see Ben Davis is probably going to have to be moved. Well, his contract ends at the end of the year. Are we going to look to move him on in January to make way for another centre-back that can play at full-back? I'd probably say we'll probably try to. And the left wing, it all depends on Telenodebert. Because if we're going to look to bring in another left winger, surely one of them are going to have to make way.
That's if we do, yeah.
So, that is the way we're at. I'm kind of happy of where we're at, and I think we can have a really good season. I said in my pre-season predictions, I think we'll finish 6th, but that was of the assumption that Manchester United were going to have a good season. And after seeing the way they've started, it's kind of made me think that we should be finishing 5th this year.
I said 7th. I'm going to bump up to 5th.
5th, yeah.
After the signings we've made.
Yeah, so I think 5th is where we should be at this season, I think. And 5th will be a very good season, potentially back in the Champions League as well.
Do you see us as heavy favourites for 5th?
I wouldn't say... Look, I think Newcastle... I think it's between us and Newcastle. I think Newcastle, I know they've lost Isak, but they've brought in Wissa, they've brought in Voltmader, which we don't know how Voltmader is going to do. It's crazy to spend 80 million on him. But Wissa can get you goals. I think it's a massive kind of drop from Isak to them. But I'm looking at their midfield. I think they got a better midfield than us. I think we got a better defence than them. Gordon probably gets our team out on the left wing. So, yeah, I think if you were to do a combined 11 between Spurs and Newcastle, it would be very even.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I think we're probably slight favourites for 5th, but I would say because we got that Champions League this season, I mean, Newcastle do as well, but I would stay. I wouldn't pass as like overwhelming favourites. I think it's pretty tight between us and Newcastle. And I would even still include United, because if they do sack Amorim, they've got a great squad. And I just think Amorim isn't using his squad to the best of its ability. Like, I think that squad is built for 4 at the back and a 4-3-3. If they find a manager who's going to play that way, and they get him installed early, they could be a serious threat again. So I think there's a slight chance they could get there as well. Look, could Bournemouth or Brighton or one of these clubs make a run for it, or Villa even? I still think it's unlikely. I look at them and think they're all good teams, don't get me wrong, and they all probably will fight for that 7th spot or 6th spot. I just don't really see them getting close to 5th.
I still think we're stronger than Man United, man for man.
But they got no Europe, remember?
Yeah,
so,
it's true. Yeah,
you
that's
know,
also
we
true.
are. Will that catch up with us?
Yeah, it could do. But in my opinion, I think it's between us and Newcastle of where everyone's at this moment in time. And I think it'll be a strong fight, a strong battle. Both have Champions League. I do think our squad's a bit deeper than Newcastle, so I think that's probably going to stand us in better stead than them. So I'm going to go for us to pip Newcastle to that 5th spot.